Hello again, my dear listeners. I'm so glad you've returned to the static. The story we began is not yet over. The echoes of that terrible sound still linger. Before we descend further into the nightmare, a gentle warning: tonight's broadcast is a continuation. If you are just tuning in and find yourself lost in the darkness of our tale, a link to the beginning will manifest for you now. Simply click the tag that has appeared on your screen. Go on, we will wait. For those of you who are ready, a small favor. A like on this video sends a ripple through the void, a signal that you are still with us. And subscribing ensures our frequency will always find you, even when the screaming starts.
The silence after my scream was more terrifying than the scream itself. It was thick, heavy, with the smell of ozone from Grin's failed attack and the metallic tang of pure fear. I sat huddled on the bed, the stark white light of the lamp my only ally, illuminating every corner, banishing every patch of darkness, but unable to erase my own shadow, splayed across the floor. It looked completely normal again, harmless, a silent, two-dimensional copy of my form. But I knew the truth now. It wasn't an absence of light, it was a waiting entity. Grin floated weakly beside me, its body no longer translucent as usual, but looking faded and trembling. The entity had drained a part of its energy. I hugged it, feeling the unusual cold radiating from its body. "It's okay," I whispered, but the words were more for me than for it. "We're going to be okay." It was a lie. I was not okay. I had made a mistake no expert in the ghost type should ever make. I hadn't just opened a door, I had invited something in. My curiosity had become a curse. I didn't sleep. I didn't dare turn off the light. I sat there until the first rays of the luminous dawn crept through the window, a sight I had never craved so much. The sunlight brought a false sense of security. My shadow shrank, became fainter, but it was still there, a permanent reminder of the horrific night. I had to act. Fleeing was useless. This entity wasn't a spirit bounding to a location, it was bound to me. Wherever I went, it would follow. I had to face it. I thought about calling Steven, telling him everything, but what could I say? "Steven, my shadow is trying to kill me." He was a man of science. He would think I had gone mad. He would try to explain it away with a phenomena of light refraction or stress-induced psychosis. No, this was a battle in my world, and I had to fight it myself. But how do you fight a shadow? It has no body to strike, no mind to read, no spirit to communicate with. It was an emptiness given form. I spent the day researching, not in Steven's scientific textbooks, but in the ancient scrolls I always carried with me, texts passed down from my predecessors at Mount Pyre. I searched for records of other dimensions, of shadow entities. Most were just vague warnings. Do not gaze into the abyss. There are doors that should never be opened. But then I found a short passage written by a monk centuries ago. "The shadow cannot be destroyed, for it is the negation of all things. It cannot be banished, for it belongs nowhere. It can only be returned to the place from which it came. To do so, a gate must be opened. But be warned, for the gatekeeper must also be prepared to walk through it." I read that sentence over and over. A mad, dangerous plan began to form in my mind. I couldn't fight the shadow while it was just a puppet, an extension of the entity in the shadow realm. I had to pull the entire puppet and the puppeteer into my world. I had to make it tangible, a target that could be affected. And the only tool that could do that was the Gengarite. I had to use it again, this time not with curiosity, but with a clear and deadly purpose. I called Steven. I didn't tell him the details about the shadow. I just said that I had discovered a severe energy instability related to the Gengarite, and that I needed to perform a purification ritual to stabilize it. He said it sounds dangerous. Are you sure you know what you're doing? I'm an expert, Steven. I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but I need you to do me a favor. I'm going to perform the ritual at an abandoned warehouse near the docks. I need you to stay outside. Do not come in, no matter what happens. Just make sure no one disturbs me. If I'm not out in an hour, call Wahone Elite 4. It was my way of saying goodbye without saying the words. He said it doesn't like this at all. There's something I'm not telling him. Just trust me, Steven. I said, please. He hesitated, then finally agreed.
The abandoned warehouse smelled of sea salt and rust and neglect. Daylight streamed in through cracks in the roof, creating dusty pillars of light. I chose the center of the warehouse, where the space was widest. This wasn't a typical Pokémon battle. I wasn't preparing strategy. I was preparing my mind. I sat down, cross-legged, and began to meditate. I released all of my ghost-type Pokémon, Dusknoir, Banette, Sableye, to form a protective circle around me, not to ward off an external enemy, but to keep my own mind from scattering. I focused on my sense of self. Who was I? I am Phoebe. I am the one who can hear the whispers of the departed. I am a friend to ghosts. I am a guardian of the balance. I repeated these truths, building a mental fortress. Finally, I turned to Grin. It was still weak, but the determination in its red eyes was strong. "Ready, Grin?" I asked. "This is going to be hard. You're not just my guardian, you're my anchor. No matter what happens, you have to keep me connected to this world." It nodded, its wide grin looking serious and brave for the first time. I stood up. I took a deep breath. It was time. I activated the Gengarite. The purple energy swirled around us. Mega Gengar emerged, its lower body once again sinking into the darkness. But this time, I didn't let curiosity guide me. I did the opposite. I used my will as a lure, a brilliant beacon in the psychic world. I didn't look into the gate. I yelled into it. "Come here," I commanded in my mind. "You want a real body, don't you? You want to feel, to exist? I am here. Come and take it." My shadow on the floor began to convulse violently. It was no longer flat. It began to rise like a pool of boiling tar. From that pool, a shape began to form. It stretched upwards, detaching from the floor, and stood tall. It was here, the shadow twin. It was a perfect copy of me, made of solid darkness. It had no face, no eyes, just an empty void in the shape of a human. A cold emanated from it that made the air in the warehouse feel like it was freezing. It looked at me, and then it lunged. The battle erupted, a whirlwind of chaos. The Shadow Twin didn't fight like a Pokémon. It fought like a nightmare. It had no specific moves. It shape-shifted. It
Its arms elongated into sharp claws. It melted into the floor and re-emerged from another corner. It was the personification of irrationality. Mega Gengar, true to its promise, became my guardian. It intercepted, using shadow balls and dark pulses to block the attacks. But every time a hit landed, the Shadow Twin would simply dissolve for a moment before instantly reforming. Meanwhile, it was attacking me on another front, the mental front. Why resist? A voice whispered in my head, a distorted copy of my own. We can be one. You would know all the secrets of the spirits, the secrets of the stars, the secret of death itself. Images flooded my mind. I saw psychic realms I never knew existed, knowledge far beyond human comprehension. It was a sweet temptation. You've always been lonely, haven't you, Phoebe? Always between two worlds, never truly belonging to either. But here, in the darkness, all is one. No more loneliness. It was using my deepest fears and insecurities against me. It was trying to make me waver, to make me believe that merging with it was a form of salvation. No! I shouted, both out loud and in my thoughts. That is a part of me. That loneliness, that difference, it is who I am. I reaffirmed my sense of self, the delicate balance I had built my whole life. By accepting my own darkness, I stripped it of some of its power. But it was still too strong. The Shadow Twin seemed to realize it couldn't persuade me. It changed tactics. It let out a silent scream and its entire body exploded in a wave of darkness, sending Mega Gengar flying into a wall. Grin collapsed, unconscious, reverted to its normal Gengar form. My anchor was gone. I was completely alone. The Shadow Twin slowly advanced on me. It wasn't attacking anymore. It was simply approaching, its shadowy arms outstretched. It wasn't going to kill me. It was going to possess me. I looked at my unconscious Gengar, then at the entity advancing on me. I knew I couldn't win, not with power, but I couldn't let it loose in my world. A final decision was made, cold and clear. If I couldn't defeat it, I would take it with me. I would become the bait. Instead of resisting, I suddenly stopped fighting. I threw open my mind, dropping all my psychic barriers. You want me, don't you? I screamed in my mind, a final shout of defiance. Then take all of me! I turned myself into a brilliant beacon of life energy, of emotion, of spirit, a lavish feast that no starving creature could refuse. The Shadow Twin, drawn by instinct, let out a triumphant roar and lunged at me. Darkness enveloped me. I felt my sense of self being torn apart, sucked into a cold, empty void. I could feel its consciousness merging with mine. The moment it had completely surrounded me, I used the last of my willpower to issue a final, desperate command to my unconscious Gengar. Open the gate! Gengar, acting on its master's final command, on the deepest instinct of their bond, Mega Evolve for one final instant! The tear leading to the Shadow Realm opened right beneath my feet. I didn't hesitate. I threw myself into it, taking the Shadow Twin, which was now clinging to me like a second skin, with me. I would seal myself away with this monster forever. It was my sacrifice. As the darkness of the gate was about to swallow me completely, I felt a strange sense of peace. I had failed, but I had also protected my world. And then, amidst the emptiness, I felt a grip. A strong, warm, physical hand clamping down on my wrist.
Stephen had not followed my orders. He had been standing outside the warehouse, pacing nervously. The silence from within was more terrifying than any
any scream. He was a scientist. He trusted data, and the only data he had was that his friend was in there alone, facing something even she didn't fully understand. His unease won out over his promise. He had burst through the door, his massive Metacross at his side, at the exact moment I was about to be consumed by darkness. "No!" he yelled, lunging forward and grabbing me. A horrific tug of war began on the precipice of two worlds. I was in the middle. On one side was Stephen, pulling with all his might to bring me back to the light, to life. On the other was the Shadow Twin, now a part of me, pulling me into eternal emptiness. Stephen's Metacross used its powerful psychic abilities not to attack, but to hold the gate open just enough to give Stephen more time. I felt like I was being torn in two. "Help me," I whispered, the last of my consciousness pleading. With a roar of determination, Stephen gave one final mighty pull, yanking me free from the gate just as it snapped shut. I collapsed onto the floor, free. The Shadow Twin was trapped on the other side. I had survived. I woke up a few days later in a sterile white hospital room in Lumios. The smell of antiseptic was comforting. Stephen was sitting in a chair by my bed. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He told me everything about how he broke in, about the tug of war, about how my Gengar had woken up moments later, completely normal. I was physically unharmed, save for extreme exhaustion, but my mind, it had traveled to a place no one should go and returned. The story ends one afternoon with Stephen and me standing on a balcony overlooking the bustling city of Lumios. He handed me the Gengarite, which now looked so innocuous in the sunlight. "That's a terrifying power, but you controlled it. You won." I shook my head, looking at the stone with a profound sense of awe. "No, Stephen, I didn't win. I lost the moment I thought I could understand it. I've spent my whole life communicating with spirits. I thought I knew everything, but I'm just a novice." I looked up at Stephen, and for the first time, he saw a true, unfeigned humility in my eyes. I always wondered why the trainers in Kalos revered the bond so much. Now I understand. This isn't about commanding a Pokémon for more power. It's a dance on the edge of an abyss. They have spent generations learning how to control it, how to keep their balance. I have the utmost respect for them, the powerful trainers of this land. They aren't just battling their opponents, they are battling the very power they wield. I placed the Gengarite into a specially prepared sealed box. I no longer feared it, but my naive curiosity had been replaced by a deep reverence. I had learned the most important lesson for any spiritualist. Some boundaries exist for a reason, and true wisdom isn't about crossing them, but about knowing when to stop.
The signal fades, but the darkness lingers. This was Lavender Town Radio. Return, if you dare, because the next story may be your last.